Hey cousins, I'm Shemaya. It's like papaya, except it's not, and this is Plot Twist Please. Let's get into it. They've done it again, and they've gotten away with it. Them and their team of supporters know exactly what they're doing, but you've got a plan. You and your group of friends who've been slighted by this person have a plan. After all, it's high school, and if things seem unfair, they don't stay that way, right? If you don't know, what I'm referencing right now is John Tucker Must Die, also Mean Girls, also any 90s teen movie where there was an outcast who needed to get back at a popular kid, or someone who was tyrannical in their dating practices, or someone who seemed to have it coming. And I wanted to talk about this today in this short little mini-sode because I think a lot of us, whether you're neurodivergent or not, but specifically if you're neurodivergent and specifically if you're autistic, have a hard time dealing with the concept of walking away from someone who has harmed you and never apologized, or someone who has harmed you and seems to have never paid the price for what they did. But before that, this is Plot Twist Please, a place where I like to talk about mental health and movies. So, if you're autistic, welcome. If you're not, welcome. We're going to talk about some autistic things, so gather around. I think for autistic people, a lot of us, when it comes to people who hurt us, our strong sense of justice comes out. And when I say strong sense of justice, let me clarify what I mean. So, it is a pillar of autism. It's something that a lot of autistic people have, and it's this idea that things should have balance. This deep-seated understanding that when things are balanced, our brains feel better. That when there's a direct cause and effect to something, and that effect is equal in gravity as that cause, or that when the consequence of something is equal in gravity to the action that was committed, things just feel level. We are obsessed with balance. We are obsessed with equations that make sense. And to us, it doesn't make sense that someone would do something and not suffer the consequence for that action. It just doesn't make sense. I was actually talking to a friend of mine earlier this week about logic when it comes to how I perceive justice, and how when I think that something happened that I can't make sense out of, or when something happens to me that I can't make sense out of, I will often try and boil it down to logic, and I will lay out the equation in front of me and try to balance it out. And when it doesn't balance out, I literally don't know how to deal. I don't know how to deal. It's something I'm working on. I just truly combust when people's actions don't measure out equally, and when someone's when the consequence for someone's action doesn't seem to match the offense. And the thing about it is that I'm realizing is that that's life. Sometimes that person, I firmly believe, because I'm a spiritual person, because I believe in God and I believe in balance, that balance happens at the end of the day, and that it's not my sole purpose to make sure that balance happens, but that it'll happen anyway. But even if you don't believe that, the fact of the matter is, even if someone does suffer the consequence for their actions, or many consequences for their actions, it's not like you're going to be able to see it all. It's not like you have this bird's eye view into someone's life who hurt you, and you will be able to see how they suffer at every moment of every day. Because 9 times out of 10, and I think I talked about this in a TikTok and I want to embellish on it now, but the thing of it is, people who hurt other people and seem not to care, they are suffering, actually. They are suffering a lot. They are probably not living fulfilling lives. They are probably not okay with themselves. They probably deeply hate themselves, and they probably have deeply fragile emotions. Because imagine hurting someone and not being able to face that, not being able to tell them that you're sorry. How fragile must you be emotionally to not be able to say, I'm sorry? How fragile must your opinion of yourself be where you can't face criticism at all? Like you just can't even face it. And so when I voice how someone has hurt me and that person doesn't seem to care, I have a different response than I used to a few years ago. The response that I have now is, well, let's compare and contrast, shall we? The response that I used to have was, oh, this person is heartless and doesn't care, and I'm stupid for caring, and oh, I was just a little girl who cared about somebody hurting me, and I should have grown up quicker than that, and I should have been like, it's like, you know how we get into our little brains, and we punish ourselves for feeling. So this is your little reminder. This is your 10-minute long reminder to not punish yourself for feeling, because the thing I've realized is the people who are the most quote unquote, okay, I hate to use this word because I feel like a lot of the time it can be used as a weapon against people who are deeply wounded, but I feel like the most mature people I've seen or I've come into contact with, my little sliver of life, this this little tiny slice in the life, not the life of Pi. Okay, Life of Pi reference. In the pie of life, that those people tend to be really in touch with how they're feeling and really in touch with how things affect them. And I just don't think I'm going to punish myself for that anymore. I don't think I can. No. I don't think I'm going to punish myself anymore for saying, hey, this hurt me. In fact, it takes a lot of pride to admit when something has hurt you, when something has wounded you. And I also, okay, just a little tidbit. I have started using the word wounded instead of hurt because I would listen to this therapist on YouTube. I watch them. And every therapist on YouTube, I won't co-sign, but this one in particular, I like a lot of their takes on pop culture and specifically when it comes to neurodivergence, when it comes to ableism. I vibe with, I like what I'm smelling in the kitchen, so I stick around. And they have used the word wounded to describe pain, emotional pain, and I like it. Because I think what's going on with me is I think I'm used to hearing the word hurt as a descriptor of how someone's affected somebody else. And I think I'm getting desensitized to it to the point where I'm like, okay, they hurt me. Wah, little baby. Like where I'm punishing myself for being hurt. And I think if I use a word that sounds more dire, like wounded, that feels more accurate to the gravity of the emotion that I'm feeling. Because it's a wound. It's not just somebody tapped you on the shoulder. It's not just somebody stepped on your foot. They wounded you. They hurt you to a point that they left a scar that you are now responsible for dealing with, that you have to now clean up and wait for it to heal and put hand sanitizer on your hands and then have to just close your eyes and wait for the inevitable sting. You have to deal with it, and you have to deal with it for probably a long time, probably a longer time than you would like. That's a wound. That's not just somebody pinching you. That is a wound. And that's why I like using that word now, because it feels more accurate to what autistic people tend to feel when people slight us. Because the thing of it is, if you are a deeply sensitive kind of autistic person who's very in touch with your emotions or who feels everything really deeply, it really does mess with your understanding of the world when somebody hurts you and seems to not care. It really does mess with your sense of humanity. You're wait a minute, so you did this to me and then just walked away and don't feel anything? And of course it's not true, they do feel something, but it seems like they don't. And so you're just it really does mess with your entire worldview when somebody hurts you. And I know girl, I know I'm dramatic. I know I'm dramatic. I'm not an actor for nothing, but that's what it feels like. And then, and I will talk about this in a longer episode because I think there's a lot to cover here, but it also affects how we view ourselves. A lot of autistic people are used to growing up being told that they need to edit themselves for their environment. And because of that, when someone hurts us, a lot of the time we're like, oh, because I did something, or that's because I wasn't good enough, or I didn't cater myself enough to this person's needs, to this person's emotional needs and preferences. And that's why I got hurt. I got hurt because I did the thing wrong. And oftentimes you just get hurt because you're caught in the crossfires of someone else's wounds. Like, that's the thing. And I just wanted to remind you that even if you're not seeing someone suffering who has hurt you, they probably are causing enough suffering on their own to themselves. And that's not something we should celebrate either. That's not something to celebrate, because what's going to happen is they end up wounding more people. What ends up happening is they end up wounding the people that are closest to them. And that's nothing to delight in. And all that to say, I hope that you are taking care of your wounds. I hope that you are being gentle with yourself, because getting hurt is not a failure. Getting hurt, getting wounded, wounded is a reminder that you care so deeply about the state of the world, and you care so deeply about how humans interact with one another, that it takes time for you to be brave enough to face it all again. And I hope you do take that time. I hope you do. Anyway, thanks for listening to the minisode. The full episodes are coming back soon. My editor is going to be sending me the video format of the long form episode I've got coming up. And y'all, I'm excited about this one. Stay tuned. It'll be released later this week. Be blessed. Stay weird. Bye-bye.